Well, European leaders are scrambling to find a joint response to the peace plan. Germany's Chancellor Friedrich Merz is the first NATO ally to discuss the plan for Ukraine with Donald Trump. During a brief phone call, the leaders are said to have discussed the next steps for coordination between international advisors. Merz will now talk to his EU counterparts. The leaders of Germany, France, and the UK today underlined their backing of Ukraine in a call with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky earlier in the day. Now here's more on the German Chancellor's call with Trump from DW's chief political editor, Michaela Küfner.
Just before taking off here from Germany, heading to the G20 in South Africa, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz actually became the first European leader to catch Donald Trump on the phone. He clearly wasn't picking up for the entire day Friday. And what the two leaders agreed on, we're told by the German side of this, is that both sides, the United States and the Europeans, will now sit down together, discuss the 28-point plan, but also the counter plan that the Europeans consulted on and came up with throughout the day on Friday in many frantic phone calls of inner European negotiation and consultation. So it looks like the G20 will become a hub for international diplomacy, despite the fact that the United States is not there with a delegation. But we've learned that Sherpas, so chief negotiators from the American and the European side, will now sit down together, wherever that may be. And of course, they're working towards that deadline of next Thursday that the US side has set for signing off on some form of peace plan. The Europeans are hopeful that that timeline is not 100% fixed, and they're under intense pressure to negotiate away some key elements that would throw the European security architecture in itself into question. So these are key hours and days, both for Ukraine and for Europe as a whole.
Well, I'm joined now by our correspondent Anchal Vohra in Brussels. Anchal, let's talk about where European leaders are tonight. How are they reacting to this U.S. and Russian peace plan for Ukraine?
Well, Brent, since yesterday, my colleagues and I have been talking to several European leaders. There was a foreign affairs ministers meeting here in Brussels yesterday, and today as well we got a chance to speak to several EU officials. What they say is that Ukraine should have been in the room in the first place, and this has been European position from the very start. They've been saying that, of course, any kind of peace talks, any kind of deal making has to be done in consultation with Ukraine. After all, Russia has waged this war against Ukraine, and it's Ukrainian people dying on the front line. Secondly, the sense here is that President Trump seems, according to the details that have emerged of this proposal, seems to have given Russia everything that Russia wants, whereas it seems to be asking Ukraine to give up a lot of its territory without really specifying what security guarantees the US is ready to provide. And thirdly, leaders here want to reach out to Washington, and I can assure you phone lines are ringing. EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen is to speak to Zelensky soon, but also there is G20 going on, and we have learned that there will be conversations taking place.
Yeah, and we've been here before, so what does that tell us then? What are the main priorities for Europe when it comes to any future peace talks?
Well, you said we've been here before. Europe was not in the room, not on the table. It was then on the table, back in the room. So it's possible that Europeans can again find a way to reach out to President Trump. European priorities have been quite simple, that whatever peace deal is agreed upon, Russia should not invade Ukraine again. Russia should not attack any of the EU or NATO member states. But then again, if we look at a plan or the proposal and the details that have emerged, it does say there will be some sort of a comprehensive non-aggression agreement between Russia, Ukraine and Europe, which means at some level, at some point, Europe will be consulted. It also says Russia will enshrine in law its policy of non-aggression towards Europe and Ukraine. If this is correct, that means Europe has some reason to calm down here and relax and say, all right, maybe Russia is not going to be invading Ukraine and European EU member states. How do you ensure this happens? Again, we come back to security guarantees. This has been the key piece, and this remains unanswered.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of talking between now and next Thursday, that is for sure. DW's Anchal Vohra with the latest in Brussels tonight. Anchal, as always, thank you.